high Sabbath day, the end of Sukkot, and he's communicating to these people that his sheep hear his voice. And so we've only got about a minute left here in the first segment, but I wanted to point that out because it's so important, because this is the only place in the Scriptures, New Testament writings, I'm going to say, chapter 10, verse 22 of John is the only place that this quote-unquote Feast of Dedication is actually titled a feast.
Okay, so he's making...
It's this word feast.
Yeah, I know.
It's got to go. It's not in the
it's not in the text.
There's no feast, because a Chag, this is another place where he hasn't done his homework, and it's just the fact of the matter. And we're not bashing on you, Mister. It's you haven't done your homework, and that's just it. And you shouldn't be making these kinds of claims and challenging people on these fronts without first doing your homework, because you're getting caught with unarmed and unaware without your oil.
Yeah. Well, what he keeps emphasizing is this is the only time. This is the only time. Okay, so actually, here's the question that I posed to this gentleman, because I wrote them. It seems to me what they are saying, and this is what they're saying, I have more clips of this, but what they're saying is that this Feast of Dedication, as they're calling it, actually the Greek just says dedication, okay? So this Feast of Dedication that we find here in John 10:22, they're saying that this is the only place, and they're saying that it is now, that this is actually referring to the 8th day of Sukkot.
Right? Yeah.
Okay, so what I wrote them and said was, hey, look, I've looked at this Greek word. I've searched for it in Josephus, in Philo. I even looked in the Gospel of Thomas. I looked in the apocryphal works, okay? I've looked everywhere that I can think of. Can you please show me any evidence where this word is used as the 8th day of Sukkot anywhere in first century literature? Of course, they didn't want to respond. I couldn't find it. I could not find it. It's not in any of those works. Nowhere in those works is this word that's translated dedication, okay? Nowhere is it ever used of the 8th day of Shemoneh Atzeret.
It's never used. Yeah, I mean, it's never used that in any. He's importing meaning. He's forcing a meaning. You know what this is? This is a classic case of straining the gnat, swallowing the camel.
Okay, but hang on just a second. Now I'm gonna take his argument for a second. Okay, perhaps what he's going to say is that in Second Chronicles 7 through 10, they are having a feast of dedication, right? What do we have? It says on the 8th day they held a solemn assembly for the dedication of the altar. They observed 7 days and the feast 7 days. So what I'm saying is that maybe they're actually saying, well, there was the Feast of Dedication. It says it right here in 2 Chronicles at the same time, and it was on the 8th day. So that's what it's being called. Here's the problem, is that the text in 2 Chronicles in the Hebrew specifically differentiates between the dedication of the altar and between the 7-day feast.
And Hanukkah HaMizbeach, the dedication of the altar, is the 7 days. Shemoneh Atzeret is
the 8th day.
The 8th day. Yeah. So he's confused again. Another detail where he hasn't done his homework.
Okay, and then maybe another place that they might be trying to get this from is a 3rd century work Clement of Alexandria wrote, and he's talking about different timelines and whatnot. Finally, at the end, he says, Cyrus had, by proclamation, previously enjoyed the restoration of the Hebrews, and his promise being accomplished in the time of Darius, the Feast of Dedication was held, as also the Feast of Tabernacles. So both, what Clement of Alexandria is saying is both those festivals were held. And then we also have the Apostolic Constitutions, which says, for this also is written in the 2nd book of the Chronicles, that after the temple of the Lord was finished by King Solomon, in the very feast of dedication, the priests of the Levites and the singers stood up towards the east, praising and thanking God with cymbals and psalteries, and saying, Praise the Lord, for he is good, for his mercy endureth forever. But there, once again, they're talking about the dedication of the altar. So, my point in all of this is to say this. When it comes to first century literature and what we know of the first century, okay, when this word in the Greek, okay, this word in the first century is used to denote the festival of Hanukkah as found in the in 1st and 2nd Maccabees. From every piece of evidence that we can find, no one was using it at all to mean the 8th day of Sukkot.
Correct.
It was being used in the first century from every piece of evidence that we have, and there is evidence. There's clear evidence. I would say there's clear evidence that this word was being used for the feast of Hanukkah as found in 1st and 2nd Maccabees. So for Outcry Ministries or for Joseph Dumond to say that everybody else has got it wrong, all I can say is we have to point to the evidence.